said, the traffic flows smoothly and the buses run smoothly. And that's all I've got.
All right, thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, Pete Panuccio. I live on 36th Street between Park and Madison, and Madison Avenue, north of 36th Street now comes to a dead stop during the day. That's a result of the double bus lanes north of 42nd Street. Where's all this traffic gonna go when you stop at 34th Street and the pending Fifth Avenue project? It seems to me that there's just, you people wanna clog the arteries to the point where it no longer moves, and I think these decisions have already been made. I am gonna state my piece. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, do we have anybody else in the room? Wanted to speak? No, okay. All right, I'll bring it back to the committee. Do we have any further questions, or I'll open it up to general discussion as well? Brock?
Yeah, just want to make comment that double bus lanes work. I mean, the buses move, and the emergency vehicles move, the fire engine move, the ambulances move, the city moves. So, and almost 100,000 people are taking these buses, and they need the space to maneuver. So I support this.
Anyone else wish to comment or ask any questions? Does anybody wish to make a motion? We did have two resolutions, one in favor and one opposed, that were circulated, if we wanted to potentially adopt one of the two.
So I have my hand raised, so I will make the resolution.
You do not, but you have the floor.
Okay, so my hand is raised because I want to support the resolution. I think we heard from the community board that has most of the area. I believe in this will simplify traffic on Madison Avenue. So I'd like us to go to the resolution and then move the question.
All
Second.
right. Great, thank you. Brenda, can you pull up the reso? Do we have any changes that we want to see from what was shared on the in favor reso? All right, seeing none. Let's move to a vote. Brendan will conduct a roll call.
Okay, when I call your name, please say whether you are in favor, opposed, abstain, or not entitled. Michael Cohen.
In favor.
Lee Disman.
In favor?
Maya Donahue.
In favor.
Brock Friedman.
In favor.
Jason Fromowitz.
In favor.
Eric Goldberg.
He left.
Okay. Anna Picior.
In favor.
Marion Rowe.
In favor.
Larry Shire.
In favor.
Gabe Terza.
In favor.
And Jerry Weinstein.
In favor.
With all 10 committee members present voting in favor, this resolution passes committee.
Great, thank you. All right, moving on to DOT's last item on the agenda, but not our last item on the agenda. We have Third Avenue Complete Streets proposal.
Great, thank you so much for that. I believe my colleague Rosie and Craig will deliver the presentation for this one.
Rosie, I think which I just did.
Hello.
Hello.
I am Rosie and I work for the Cycling and Micromobility Unit of the Department of Transportation. So I will share my screen.
Yeah.
Okay, so I am here to present a complete streets proposal for Third Avenue from 24th Street to 59th Street. Third Avenue is a commercial and residential corridor with a 70-foot roadway. Depending on where you are in the corridor, there's either 5 vehicular travel lanes or 4 vehicular travel lanes and a dedicated bus lane. This corridor is heavily used by buses, pedestrians, and cyclists. And it is part of a larger vision that we have. So phase 1 from 59th Street to 96th Street was installed in 2023, and phase 2 from 96th Street to 128th Street is construction is currently underway for that portion. The existing bike network, so there's a protected bike lane northbound on First Avenue, but it's at capacity. And we also have, as I said, the north of here, we have the protected bike lane that was added, as well as the dedicated bus lane. This is a corridor that's heavily used by buses. We have over 150 buses riding along Third Avenue during peak period, with 64,000 daily riders. We have critical northbound services with connections to Queens and throughout, and average speeds at 5.4 miles per hour in the morning and 5.2 miles per hour in the PM peak. It's also a Vision Zero priority corridor within a Vision Zero priority area. It's ranked within the top 10% of Manhattan streets for people killed or seriously injured. And there was a fatality here within the past 5 years. We are looking at this process from all perspectives: pedestrian, cyclists, buses, motorists. And so we have a way of categorizing the streets based on both how much trip generators there are, as well as how many pedestrians there are. And this is a regional corridor, which means it's very heavily used by pedestrians, and there's a lot of destinations. So when we have a regional corridor, we have a suggested width of 20 feet or more. We currently have 15 feet. And what we see a lot of benefits from complete street treatments throughout the city. So for the portion that we installed on Third Avenue from 59th to 96th, the installation of the protected bike lane and dedicated bus lane resulted in up to a 14% increase during PM peak hour and an 8% reduction in traffic injuries. We also saw a 50% reduction in pedestrian injuries. We have seen similar results throughout the city. So on Columbus Avenue from 77th Street to 96th Street, the protected bike lane and pedestrian crossing islands resulted in a 27% reduction in total crashes with injuries for all road users. And the dedicated bus lane and M60 bus service resulted in on 125th Street resulted in a 33% reduction in bus travel times and 11% reduction in traffic injuries. One of the best tools that we have to increase road safety is protected bike lanes. And actually, we see safety benefits for all road users when we install protected bike lanes. The group where we actually see the most safety benefits is pedestrians. So pedestrian injuries go down 21% when we install protected bike lanes. And I'm going to pass this over to my colleague Esteban.
Hello, everyone. My name is Esteban Doyle. I'm a project manager with the Public Realm team at New York City DOT. So as we've been talking, this proposal on Third Avenue, this is a long corridor. So we wanted to kind of break it up into sections to kind of talk about some of the context-sensitive sections of the corridor. So we're going to start at the southern end, particularly from 24th to 26th Street. This is the section at 24th Street where Third Avenue switches from a south of 24th. It is a two-way corridor, and then to the north it is one-way northbound with 5 vehicular travel lanes. And when we look at that total right-of-way space, so including the roadbed and also the sidewalks, that proportion, about 70% of that public right-of-way is dedicated to vehicles and 30% is dedicated to pedestrians. But then when we look at the modal breakdown, so the number of people traveling on the corridor by different modes, we see that there's really a pretty even split between vehicles and people walking, as well as a high number of cyclists and a large number of buses as well. And so part of our proposal that we want to talk about is really about reallocating that space on the roadway to better match and align with the number of users on the road. Next slide.
Sorry. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, and so for our proposal on this first two blocks of the corridor, we are looking to really, again, reallocate that space to address the different users. So we are maintaining the operations, as I said, at 24th Street. 3rd Avenue switches from the two-way to the one-way northbound. And so we're maintaining those same input of travel lanes that are going northbound. And then we are adding a 11-foot expanded pedestrian space on the west curb, what we like to call a super sidewalk. This is meant to be an extension of the sidewalk on the west curb that provides extra space for pedestrians on this, crowded, narrow sidewalk to be able to pass and navigate more freely along the corridor. We are also looking to add in a 9-foot parking protected bike lane, which provides that dedicated space that currently doesn't exist for the large number of cyclists on the corridor. And provides protection as well as that dedicated space. And then to also accommodate the large number of buses on the corridor, we're also looking to install a bus lane. And the next slide. And in addition to the kind of, again, that the proposal on the kind of like the cross section of the street, we're also looking to make some intersection specific improvements, particularly where there are pinch points at the corners. This is specifically at the corner on 26th Street, where there is an existing building that's kind of protruding into the sidewalk space at the corner. We're looking to add in a concrete curb extension, which will help provide more space for people to walk around the building and also have space to queue while they're waiting to cross the street. Thank you.
Okay, so as I mentioned, there's kind of two different existing cross sections. On the corridor from 24th Street to 36th Street, we have 5 vehicular travel lanes. And then from 36th to 55th Street, we have a dedicated bus lane. The bus lane drops between 55th Street and 59th Street to accommodate heavy right turning vehicles. This cross section results in a long crossing distance for pedestrians, as well as no dedicated space for bikes, even though there are a lot of bikes on the road already. And this makes it difficult for motorists to anticipate where the bikes will be. So we're proposing to repurpose the travel lanes to include a continuous bus lane and a new protected bike lane on the west curb. We collected traffic data and did a traffic analysis, which showed that 3 travel lanes can accommodate the existing peak period volumes. And this will also calm traffic and reduce speeding along the corridor, improving safety for all road users. We're adding the 9-foot protected bike lane on the west curb. So this provides a safer space for cyclists separated from moving vehicles. This is a little bit wider than our standard design because we found that this allows, first of all, for the higher volumes in Manhattan, and it also allows for cyclists to pass other cyclists that are going faster. In addition, we're looking to update curb regulations along the corridor to improve access to the curb and reduce double parking, potentially including meter installations or changes and truck loading changes. So to zoom in on the intersection, depending on the intersection, we have a couple of different treatments. So we are, at most intersections, we are proposing painted or concrete pedestrian islands. So where there are lower or no left turning vehicle volumes, this would allow for a reduction in the crossing distance for pedestrians. where there are left turning vehicles, we'll be daylighting. As you can see here, what we're proposing is like the same as what we're proposing in the portion uptown, where we remove some of the parking right in front of the curb and harden it with bike sleds and quick curb. What this does, as was mentioned in earlier presentations, it allows for left turning vehicles to see the cyclists and the pedestrians that are crossing the street. This treatment, it will repurpose 1 to 2 parking space per block, but it really is a safety, really important safety improvement that increases visibility. We're proposing quite a few concrete islands. These would be at 26th Street, 28th Street, 29th Street, 32nd Street, 36th Street, 56th Street, and 57th Street. So in the intersections where we have heavy volumes of left turning vehicles, so at 27th Street, 42nd, 54th, 45th, 49th, 51st, and 57th, we're proposing adding a left turn lane and a protected signal phase, which means that the left turning vehicles would be held when the cyclists and the pedestrians are crossing, and then they would go separately. For this treatment, we repurpose 4 to 5 parking spaces per block. Basically, the parking lane drops off to make room for the left turn bay. In addition, we're looking to standardize the intersection at 51st Street, where there's currently, a recessed pedestrian crossing, and bring it back to the intersection where the standard location everywhere else on the corridor is. And just a little, a block by block, so you can see which different treatments we are proposing per block. One thing that I also want to mention is there are a couple of blocks. The majority of the bike lanes will be parking protected, but between 55th Street and 57th Street, those bike lanes will be barrier protected. So the parking on the west curb will have to be removed for those, just so that we can fit all of the lanes and all of the heavy right turning vehicles. Yeah. So just to summarize, we believe that this treatment will improve safety for all road users on a Vision Zero priority corridor. We hope to reduce travel time for transit users while still accommodating peak traffic volumes, and improve pedestrian conditions. We are hoping to install this in summer or fall. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, start with questions from committee. Maya, I will go to you first.
Hello, thank you for that presentation. I had one quick question. I might have missed the specifics on this, but you said you're going to put concrete islands on 56 and 57. I was curious if that's interacting with the already the bus stop that's in the middle of the lanes, like it's an island itself on 57th and 3rd Avenue.
Yeah, so we're not like touching that in particular, but we're adding a mid-block on the other portions of the intersection, where, so basically where that is, we will have the like mid-block island on the other sides.
Okay, thank you.
Larry, good.
I strongly support this proposal north of 25th Street, but I have questions about the treatment of the block from 24th Street to 25th Street. When the board approved closing 25th Street between 3rd and Lexington to make it part of the Baruch campus, we took a tour of the neighborhood, and we inquired then as to
the possibility of turning Third Avenue and that block into a two-way street as it is going all the way south from there. And the reason for that has a lot to do with the exit at the FDR Drive at 25th Street and the fact that vehicles that wanted to continue going across town have to go maybe 4 blocks further north in order to pursue their trip west. And if there was a left turn allowed here, they could easily go 2 blocks south of 23rd Street and continue. I'm not sure what DOT has done in the way of considering this, but I'd like to hear.
So to summarize the questions, did DOT consider extending the roadway as two-way up to 25th Street?
I can, excuse me, I can answer that. We did not take a direct look at that, but appreciate the question, and that's something that, yeah, we would be happy to take a look at.
Thank you. Brooke?
So the question about the pedestrian islands and the specific blocks, those are great. Why not just do them at every block? Is it just an expense issue? Is it too expensive to do that? So you chose these specific ones? That's question one. Question two, to sound like a broken record, how are you going to harden the daylighting?
Okay, yeah, so why we're not doing concrete at every intersection, we don't have the resources to do that right now. The idea with the painted ones is that they will eventually be built out in concrete. We chose them based on basically mostly safety data. So just seeing where the highest crashes were along the corridor and adding them there. And then in terms of hardening the daylighting, I saw this picture. Yeah, so we are adding the bike sleds as well as, and it's kind of hard to see, but there are these delineators here along the edge.
Thank you. And if I may just entertain one more question, are you planning any city bike dock stations? Because that very much increases accessibility for the neighborhood to use this, amenity.
We don't have plans to add any right now. That's a different unit, but I can ask them about that.
It's very effective on the Upper East Side, and there's 2 of them on the Upper East Side. So, suggestion. Thank you.
All right, no other questions from the committee. I'll open up public comment. Let's start on the Zoom, and then I see you can come up and we'll go to you next. Chris, let's go to you.
Okay, this is great. So I've been wanting this for a while, because I travel on Third Avenue a lot. And actually, a couple of my engineering friends, we all travel this. Is there any plans to do the lower part of Third Avenue? I mean, I would say, why not do the whole thing? Have everything kind of uniform. I mean, I'm sure there's some kind of consideration there that I don't know about, that I don't have all the history of, but I'm curious as to why they didn't want to do the whole thing.
I'll give DOT the floor.
Yeah, we don't have plans at the moment to do the lower portion, but it is something we could look into in the future.
Okay, thank you very much. But I support this. This is a great big step forward. So I say go all the way, get it done. Thanks.
Hey, Chris. Good.
Good evening. It's me again, Jack Nierenberg, Vice President of Passengers United. And while I do support the project as a whole, I do have some serious concerns about a few elements of it. First of all, with regard to the bike lane and the timing of the traffic lights, down from 25 miles an hour to 15 miles an hour to support the bike lane and the increasing speeds of the bikes and the e-bikes. And while I understand the logic behind it, it creates problems not only for regular traffic, but also for buses. And if we're really concerned about improving the bus speeds, that needs to be taken in and really, and reevaluated. And secondly, I do want to draw attention to the issue of e-bike safety. And I've been noticing it all over the city, speeding e-bikes in both directions. And it used to be that I was able to only look one way when crossing the street. Now I have to look two ways because hardly ever do they follow the traffic laws and stop at red lights or stop signs. And it also disproportionately affects people with disabilities who can't bike and pedestrians. So that needs to be really given priority as well. Thank you.
All right, let's move on to Mikhail. You have the floor.
Okay. So,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. So, yeah, I'm here to express my full support for the redesign of Third Avenue. So let's be honest, Third Avenue is not working for most people now. As a cyclist, I avoid it completely. Although I live on 34th Street. I never ever take it. I go to First Avenue when I want to go to Central Park or Uptown. So now Third Avenue is loud, fast, and dangerous, and pretty obviously the current design is outdated and prioritizes cars at the expense of safety. We've already seen what a better version of Third Avenue looks like. The section north of 59th Street with less car lanes, a double bike lane, and green wave is more predictable and much safer. It's very important, so it takes pressure from the bike lane on First Avenue, which can keep up with increasing bike ridership. But it's disconnected, so this project's pretty good. So DOT, great job. Let's go big and let's make Third Avenue Street for everyone. A comment that Chris made, I think it would be very important.
Mikhail, sorry, you're out of time, but thank you for the comments. Good.
Hi, I'm Sean. I support this idea. I have a question. Have you looked at doing both ways on the bike lane? And why not? If so, you mentioned Second Avenue is at capacity already, so where else are we gonna go north to travel on the bike lane, if not Second or Third going in the other direction? As other people have mentioned, people are already going both directions. So I think, that's a good possibility, and also too, for the daylighting spaces, just a request, if we can make those useful to pedestrians instead of just being concrete, like whether they could be grass or trees or benches or sitting on, the granite blocks, just something more than plastic that cars ruin ultimately. But yeah, thank you everyone for this effort and looking forward to it being implemented.
Thank you. So yeah, a question for DOT was a two-way bike lane explored.
We did, yeah, I mean, we did explore it a little bit. With the two-way bike lanes, you kind of have to change you need to protect the left turn at every single one, because of the contraflow bike traffic. So it just like produces a lot more issues and is a lot more difficult to figure out the signal timing for, and requires a lot more infrastructure. So that's a treatment that tends to be better where we have an edge condition, so we don't have the turning vehicles into the two-way bike traffic.
Thanks. All right, let's go to Theodore. You now have the floor.
Thank you guys very much. Yeah, I'm definitely in support of the plan. There's just a couple questions I have, which is number one, have you looked at all into bus bulbs? Because I guess it does sort of confuse me, this coming after the Madison Avenue double bus lane discussion. Like, this is a similar sort of street. I know there's not as much bus traffic, but you still do have local and express buses. And I'm wondering, did you look at a double bus lane, and then why did you decide against it? Because I could definitely, if you have parking, I could definitely see loading in the bus lane being a problem that ultimately interferes with its execution. And then I'm also wondering, would you consider the super sidewalk on the bus lane side in order to have more space, for example, to put bus shelters? I'm looking at the open data set, and there's some stops that don't currently have bus shelters. I'm thinking that could synergize with adding them there, expanding the sidewalk.
I can take that question. So I know that we did look at some locations for bus bulbs. Ultimately, it was deemed they were not constructible. There are a lot of utilities, a lot of drainage issues, and when we're trying to build an in-house project, we're just limited in our ability to build out things on concrete, particularly in, this part of Manhattan, where there are just like a lot of conflicts that are happening. In terms of the super sidewalk, we also had explored the super sidewalk on the east side of the street, but with potential conflicts of the bus stops and the need to take away and more travel capacity, another lane of traffic. It just didn't seem like a feasible option. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Go ahead. Okay.
Hi, I'm Mark. I live on Third Ave. I take every mode of transit on Third Ave. I do commute by bike a lot on Third Ave, so I'm all for the bike lane. I think it's gonna slow down the bike speeds a little bit too, because it's kind of a free for all, trying to keep up with traffic there. And it will keep bikers in the bike lane, which is safer for pedestrians. And that includes the delivery folks on bikes who sometimes run on the sidewalk right now, and it kind of encourages them to go on the bike lane, so it's safer. I really would like to see the pedestrian islands and hardened daylighting, especially on 32nd and 33rd, because there's an elementary school right there. My kids go to that elementary school. A lot of people come from the subway and cross Third Ave, and it's kind of a treacherous crossing across 7 lanes. It's always cars encroaching to try to turn into you at that point. So the shorter crosswalk space, especially with something to prevent cars from parking there, would make it much better. And I'd love to see the super sidewalks up a little bit higher too, because a lot of businesses, especially restaurants, are in the high 20s, low 30s. They have a lot of seating out on the sidewalk, which I think is awesome, but it also makes it hard to walk through there. You can't fit a stroller through there. So something like a pedestrian space or the super sidewalk, having that instead of, say, parking or extra traffic lanes, it would just make it better for the people that live in the area and want to use the neighborhood. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, let's go to Christopher.
Yes. Hey, hello. My name is Christopher Leon Johnson, back here again. So I'm here supporting the Third Avenue Third Avenue project, the redesign. What I'm calling on the DOT to do, I know, is that they need to add real dividers and real barriers for the bike lane instead of just putting paint on the street, because I see that the bike lane doesn't, like a painted bike lane without no real physical protection from a car, or especially a truck. It doesn't do anything for any community. So I'm saying I'm calling on a DOT to find a way to allocate some money to buy like concrete barriers or concrete dividers for the bike lane. And at the same time, we need to stay on deliveristas and to make sure that these deliveristas doesn't be criminalized by the NYPD while this is happening. The DOT need to, like I said, get some $millions from the budget, from the executive budget and the city council budget, and buy concrete dividers, like concrete barriers. So you see like when construction workers work. So they need to have more than just put a paint and stuff like that. Because without a real protection, like hot cars,
Thank you for the comment. Sorry, but you're at time. Appreciate it.
All right.
Good evening, everyone. Charlton D'Souza, President of Passengers United. So all these bike lanes are being built, right? And I get that y'all want to have mobility. But I've seen yesterday, I almost got hit by 4 e-bikes in 4 different situations. And I followed the letter of the law. And most of these people that are using the bike lanes are, I hate to say it, they are undocumented and they're working for delivery companies. How is that? And so you have to wonder who's fueling all this money that's going to the app companies, these special interest groups, and how this, intertwines with community boards and things like that. It just seems very, I think, I look at these bike lanes and I hardly see people using them at certain times. And then when you do see someone using them, they're going 40 miles per hour. They have special batteries. You can't even hear them. You're waiting at the light as a pedestrian and you're following the letter of the law. They just almost bump right into you. How is that? So you guys need to address that, bike safety. And buses need to be put first instead of bikes. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's go to Theodore.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, sorry to speak in. I just wanted to clarify that by bus bulbs, I wasn't referring to only concrete as the possibility, but rather what you currently have at 14th Street and 8th Avenue and 7th Avenue, for example, which was mentioned by the 34th Street presenters from the DOT, I believe, which is like the rubber quick curb thing. Yeah, I don't know if you could speak to the feasibility of that. I also just think it's a little strange that like coming off of the 34th and Madison Avenue discussions where there's much more scarcity of street space that we should be so limited to like that we can't have any less than 3 vehicle travel lanes. I don't know. It's I'm unsure of what the logic is with like why we have to preserve 3 travel lanes here.
Can we get a response from DOT on the barriers?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. For the bus bulbs with the Zikla, I believe is their name. Yeah, that's something that we can look into more. Thank you.
Thanks. Anybody else in the room wanted to speak on third? No. All right. Let's go on to John.
Yeah, hi. I just want to say that I live in the area and I use the 3rd Avenue bike lane north of 59th Street, and I love that. It's wide. The daylighting there, you can, as you bike along that corridor, you can see that the cars are forced to turn in such a way that they have to look at you. If they're not looking at you, they're just going like it's really impossible for them to make that turn without having to look at the bikes. And as a pedestrian who walks along that corridor too, I find that it's safer for me as a pedestrian too, reduces the crossing times across the street. And this is the section north of 59. So I think that I fully am in support of adding the bike lane south of 59th Street to connect to that. It would make a much more logical bike corridor. I bike along First Avenue and it's just an anecdote, but I definitely can tell that it supports the data that the DOT's collected about it being at capacity. So this is another lane that's desperately needed. There's no other bike lane north except for 6. So
we're at time, but thank you for the comments. Let's move on to Dana. You have the floor.
Hi, I just want to say that I live on 37th and 3rd. I am, if you were able to see me, you would see that I am just a regular, everyday, middle-aged, 50-plus woman who likes to use the bike lane and wants to feel safe when I bike very slowly in the bike lane. And I believe that we definitely need a northbound bike lane on 3rd Avenue. Our only options now are the overcrowded 1st Avenue, and no one's even mentioning 6th Avenue, which is very overcrowded as well. So we definitely need this. I've also been north of 59th Street, and I think the safety improvements there are great, both as for pedestrians and cyclists, and I look forward to having it south of 59th Street. I think it's very much needed. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to Elizaveta. Sorry for butchering the pronunciation.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm in full support of this 3rd Avenue bike lane. I actually live in the district that's part of CB5, but it's almost bordering CB6. So I often find myself in your district, and currently for going north, I use the 1st Avenue when I can and 6th Avenue, even though I don't want to. So it would be amazing to have another option on 3rd Avenue that is especially much wider than the other 2 I mentioned. That's going to be 9 feet. I will say that for pedestrian islands, I think this was already discussed that there's not enough budget to make it all concrete. But I guess if there is plans to eventually make it concrete, one thing I would request is to have enough space for planters to put trees there at some point, because if we are making it a more livable city, we do need shade, we do need trees. And then I did have a question about the protected signals that like the cars are gonna have to wait if they're turning left. And did I hear that right? That it's not gonna be on every block that's going left, but only certain blocks? And I was wondering why we wouldn't want that for every left turn to make sure that it's safe to.
Thanks. I'll get it out for the DOT to respond. on the terms.
Yeah, so we have it at, it's not at every block. It's at these blocks. We don't have it at every block just because it doesn't really work with the timing. And also then it would require a lot more parking lots. So we basically have like if there's a certain number of left turning vehicles or there's a couple of lanes that they're turning into, we will do the split phase. But yeah, we don't do it at every block.
Thank you. All right, Courtney, you have the floor.
Hi, I fully support this proposal. I'm just curious about the transition for cyclists who are heading north, who below 24th Street, they'll be on the east side of the street. I'm wondering about the transition to the west side of the street at 24th Street and how we can help people do that safely.
Great question, thank you. DOT? Do you have any plans on like the street markings on the transition going northbound on 3rd Avenue below where the bike lane is?
Yes, thank you for that question. That is something that we are still exploring for what that transition would look like.
Thank you. Samir, you now have the floor.
Great, thank you. I used to live on 15th Street in Irving, and I would bike up 3rd Avenue because it was the fastest way to get to my friend's place on 28th and 3rd. It was super unsafe, and I would actually take an e-city bike just because I needed to keep up with the traffic. And with this change, I could take an acoustic city bike, go much slower, especially if the rest of 3rd Avenue gets redesigned. I think it would have been nice to see expanded sidewalks going up the whole way. But generally, I love the plan and I'm in full support. Thank you.
Thank you, Samir. All right, Autumn, you now have the floor. We can sort of hear you, but very softly.
Here, let me try to take off my AirPods.
Now you're great. Go ahead.
Is this good?
Yep, perfect. We hear you loud and clear.
Okay, cool. I love this proposal so much. The current First Avenue bike lane is far out of the way for most traffic, and as the DOT said, it is at capacity. New Yorkers have shown that they will bike in large numbers when provided with a comfortable biking environment. This bike lane will be amazing. The DOT's design of protected bike lanes has become more refined in the past few years. They just keep getting better at building them. For the DOT specifically, as wider bike lanes are implemented, it is easier for people to travel at different speeds to pass each other, as you know, that's what they're intended for. But on one-way bike lanes, some people seem to have differing opinions of which side they're supposed to be riding on when they're not passing and which side they're supposed to pass on. And this makes people feel uncomfortable when they're passed on both sides. So I think that on the wider sections, there should be clear markings to communicate which side's intended for passing, which I assume is the side that's further from the curb. But there seems to be some differing opinions on this out on the street. So the DOT should make it clear to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, seeing no more comments, I'll bring it back to the committee. Any new questions or discussion or motions?
Comment.
Yes, please.
Very happy to see this. I'm very excited about the changes.
Thank you, Michael.
I'm excited to see it coming to 3rd Avenue, because like I live between 2nd and 3rd, and I think it would be great to have it and to have this improvement. And I think that like I wondered, have they thought about leading pedestrian intervals, and any of them are raised crosswalks as well?
Question for DOT, lead pedestrian intervals on the corridor. Are there any changes planned there?
Um, I don't think that I think that there are, like a lot of areas where there already are leading pedestrian intervals. I don't think that we're adding any, but I can look into that.
Okay, thank you. Brock.
Yeah, hey, as a resident of Third Avenue here, I just want to say thank you. This is amazing. Very excited about it. I don't have anything else to say.
Okay, thank you. I have a brief comment and then I'll go to Gabe. I biked here today. I live just off of Third Avenue. Getting here on Third and Lex is a real pain because I have to go all the way east to First Avenue to get on the bike lane to go up and then back over. So once this bike lane is here, it will be great and it will make it much easier for me to get to these meetings because I will just go straight up Third Avenue. And I fully support this and I'm excited about it. Gabe?
I fully support this also. I live on 26th and Third, so I get that cool curb bump out as well. So this is triple victory.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments? If not, does any, I will also remind again that we had a resolution shared ahead of time. One in favor and one opposed. Does anyone seek to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion in favor.
All right, and we have a second. Larry, was that seconding or did you have a comment?
Seconding also.
Great. Third, Larry B, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna second it, so go move.
Okay, great. Okay, so we have the resolution, again, was distributed ahead of time. Do we have any changes that we would like to see to this? Yes, any changes or further discussion on the written resolution as presented? I have an amendment related to the markings on leading up to the bike lane, if we want to entertain it. To ask DOT to ensure that there's markings to point cyclists from 24th Street into the bike lane. If you give me a second, I'll type something up and then send it to Brendan.
Can you clarify what you mean? Because one of the people asked a very good question, like when you go up Third Avenue to 24th, how are you going to get over to the left?
Right.
That was really an amazing question. I forget who asked that, but I assume you were kind of trying to address that.
That's what I was intending to address is, some signage or mechanism or pavement markings to, exactly, to address that you will have cyclists on Third Avenue because it's two ways at 24th Street or south of 24th Street. So you'll be on the right side, and then the bike lane will appear on 24th Street going north on the left side. So those cyclists are gonna have to both somehow find a way to make it their way over, as well as to be aware that it is there on the side. So I was gonna propose some amendment to.
What are you suggesting DOT do?
I would just, that they account for the
Study
it. Make it clear, I was gonna say request that DOT implement pavement markers at 24th Street, but we could say, or signage. Clear directions, Brendan seems to be.
Yeah, just, could you let me know, first of all, the exact language and where it would be?
Yes.
I'm guessing as a resolve, because it's something additional we want DOT to do.
Yes, give me a second on language. I'm gonna work on that while Maya speaks.
I was just gonna suggest that when they did the bike lane under the tunnel by the UN, there is like when you come out of it, the switch back to go to the bike lane on the far west side. And they do it's pavements with little arrows, like on the pavement with paint.
So aren't you really talking about transitional signage? Show the signage to show the transition?
Yeah, but I'm saying like that it's paint on the ground, like it's not like signs like in the air or something. So if that's what you want to suggest, that's what they already do in the 40s in our district. Not saying that's the best though.
Give me a second, I'm writing. Larry, go ahead.
Along the same lines, I think we need to provide for adequate transitional markings and signage.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that would actually take care of both issues.
Michael, go ahead.
On the bike lane, I want to ask, will there be? First I wanted to ask, will the bus lanes be or will the I actually wanted to ask, will the bike lanes have like physical delineators to prevent cars from going in?
So yeah, I'll give that over to DOT to respond to.
The bike lane, so the delineators are essentially the cars for most of it. Except for, with the exception of those 2 blocks where they will be physical delineators.
Thank you.
All right, I have some proposed verbiage that I'm going to put in the Zoom chat. There we go. Okay, so
I'll show it.
thank you. So I was
But
gonna
I'll also add it to the actual, which result would it be?
let's make it the last resolve.
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll copy what you entered into the chat and paste it here.
Okay, so yeah, I have be it further resolved in Manhattan Community Board 6 requests that the Department of Transportation implement pavement marking, signage, and or other measures to direct cyclists to the bike lane at 24th Street where the bike lane begins. Thank you for cleaning up my spelling errors. Thoughts?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, is anybody opposed to the amendment?
I would use the word transition instead of direct and transition cyclists from one side of Third Avenue to the other at 24th Street.
Okay, so to direct and transition.
Cyclists from one side of Third Avenue to the other at 24th Street where the bike lane begins.
Okay, so direct and transition cyclists
From one side of Third Avenue to the other.
I think then you should say east or west.
Yeah, agreed. From the
East to, all right, one side of Third Avenue to the other, comma, east to west.
I think you should just say from the east side to the west side.
That's fine too.
transition cyclists from the east side
To the west side of Third Avenue.
So from the east side of Third Avenue.
The east side of Third Avenue to the west side of Third Avenue at 24th Street where the bike lane begins. Thank you, Maya.
Okay, I mean, west side of Third Avenue. Is this an accurate reflection?
looks good to me. All right, any objection to the amendment?
Looks
Seeing
good
none,
to me
the
too.
amendment is adopted. Let's move forward to voting on adopting the resolution as presented. Brendan will conduct roll call.
Okay, when I call your name, please say whether you are in favor, opposed, abstain, or not entitled. Michael Cohen,
In favor.
Pete Isman,
In favor?
Maya Donahue,
In favor.
Rob Friedman,
In favor.
Jason Cromwell,
In favor.
Anna Picior,
In favor.
Miriam Rowe,
In favor.
Larry Shire,
In favor.
Gabe Terzo,
In favor.
and Jerry Weinstein.
In favor.
With all 10 committee members in favor, this resolution passes committee.
All right, wonderful. We still have 2 more to go. Thank you, everyone, for sharing with us. Next item on the agenda, hopefully will be quick, which is a discussion of an application from the Washington Irving Education Campus to operate an open street on Irving Place between East 16th Street and East 17th Street, Monday to Friday from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. We received a letter from DOT asking for us to comment. It's a pretty standard request. They have been utilizing the space for at least the last 4 years. This is just a continuation of their open streets usage of the space. Michael.
Recently, like earlier today, used like QGIS to create a map of the site. And I know there's supposed to be 15 feet for the emergency lane. and they have about 20 feet on the street.
So more space than they need, at least.
Yeah, a little bit
Okay,
more.
great, wonderful. So, cool. Thank you. Thanks for checking that. Jared?
A dumb question. Recess is literally recess where they're occupying the street or recess from open streets?
No, my understanding is it's
The former.
the school recess. Time
Alright.
where kids are playing in the street.
That's why I said dumb.
Yes.
All right.
It's a reasonable question. Okay, so we have, Maya, sorry, go ahead.
I have a tangential question. I'm in support of this. This is fine. But aren't they ripping up Irving Place at some point for the water lines? Didn't we have a confusion on that?
Yeah, that's ongoing. I don't know when or if it reaches exactly where this proposed open street is, but regardless, we're just talking about putting up,
I would just
No
would say when that
gates.
happens, to make sure that we inform them well and everything like that.
we can take that as a follow-up. Yes, thank you. B,
Yeah, I was gonna move the resolution since it's really an extension of what they're doing, so I'd like to propose that we move the resolution
in favor of?
in favor of.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do we have a second?
Uh-huh.
Okay, we have to do a little bit of housework on this one before we pass it. Brendan, if you pull up the resolution, it's like in the form of a Mad Libs template, so we'll just have to makes the changes to show that it's in support.
So it's resolution supporting.
Yes.
Supporting.
Okay, I can remove the yellow highlight later, don't wanna.
I also have a friendly amendment on, there was a change. No, it was around the time. I think it says somewhere around there for several years. I wanted to change it to 4 years. 6/9/16.
Oh, there you go,
Yeah. 4, at least 4 years.
for at least 4?
Yeah.
And I'll delete these negative.
It could get rid of the 21. Okay, yeah, sorry, I guess just make that no members of the community.
Yeah.
Actually, sorry, I just want to make it clear that members of the community can comment if anybody wants to. I know I sort of specifically opened the floor to that, so, before we vote on this issue. The open street, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great, sorry.
This is perfect.
Yes, on Irving Place.
Yeah. So, yeah, Charlton D'Souza, President of Passengers United. So this actually we do support, I would support, because I actually graduated from Manhattan Comprehensive and Identity High School at 242nd Avenue. So, yeah, I understand the need for the students to have activities and stuff like that. And I also think y'all should work with Manhattan Comprehensive to do something like that as well. Yeah, especially 15th Street by the park. Sometimes the night students and the day students, they go through the park, so y'all might want to talk to them. That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay.
Okay, anyone else from the public who wants to speak, raise your hand. If not, we'll change that to members of the community that had comments. Support?
Yes. I see one other.
Okay,
Chris.
Chris, you have the floor. Sorry, I think now you have the floor.
Okay, so yeah, I just wanted to say that I support, whatever they need to do to continue the open street on Irving. I go there for doctor's appointments, all that. So yeah, have at it.
Great, thank you. And thank you, Brendan, for updating that. Okay, is everybody good with the resolution as displayed? If so, let's go for the vote. Brendan, please.
Okay, committee members, when I call your name, please say whether you are in favor, opposed, abstain, or not entitled. Michael Cohen.
In favor.
B. Desmond.
In favor.
Maya Donahue.
In favor.
Brock Friedman.
In favor.
Jason Fromowitz.
In favor.
Anna Pizzior.
In favor.
Miriam Rowe.
In favor.
Larry Shire.
In favor.
Gabe Terzo.
In favor.
And Jerry Weinstein.
In favor.
With all 10 committee members in favor, this resolution passes committee.
All right, moving on. We have one more item left on the agenda. I know it is 10:30, which is probably a record. We could, in theory, push this out. I don't personally want to. I just wanted to get a feeling from the committee if everybody's good with pushing forward at 10:30.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, this is on the criminalization.
Criminalization.
Okay, all right, in that case, I will very, very quickly run through presentation. Brendan, if you could pull that up. I'm going to use my fast speaking voice.
You can start speaking. I'll figure out how to get full screen.
Okay, yes. So, well, first of all, the title on the agenda, just to make sure that is clear. We're going to be discussing New York NYPD's policy to issue criminal summonses to cyclists for minor offenses. I have distributed a resolution asking City Council to pass legislation to require NYPD to issue non-criminal summons for these traffic violations. Sorry, my processing is a little slow in the 10:30 at night. So anyway, yes. Okay, so here's the case that I'm laying out for why we should pass this resolution. So in April 2025, NYPD implemented this new policy where they would issue criminal summonses to cyclists for minor traffic violations. These include things like running a red light or failing to stop at a stop sign. In making them criminal summonses, this now requires someone who receives one of these to have an in-person appearance at criminal court. Next slide, please, Brendan. In contrast, drivers who commit the same violations would be are still subject to a Class B summons traffic ticket, which is what cyclists were previously subject to. This carries around a $190 fine. It could either be handled by mail if you plead guilty, or you can have a DMV hearing to plead not guilty. And yeah, as I mentioned, cyclists previously were issued these types of violations, and in the new policy, they have a criminal summons which requires them to have the in-person hearing. Next slide, please. And I believe criminal summonses hit our immigrant delivery riders the hardest. According to the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection, there are about 99,000 delivery workers in our city, and they make $2.7 million deliveries per week. Now, those are not all immigrants, but many of them are, and they serve a very large demand for people who want to get food delivered to them each week. Court dates for these workers, if they're giving criminal summonses, it means lost wages. They're not receiving vacation time to attend these court hearings. These are independent contractors. And furthermore, when they're hauled into court to make these, to plead their case, which they must, either if they want to plead guilty or innocent, that puts them at risk for interacting with ICE agents, which will then point to a recent headline from the city where ICE agents are now making a policy to have encounters with immigrants while they have court appearances. This wasn't specifically about bike lane court appearances, but the precedent exists that ICE is utilizing court appearances to intercept immigrants, and by requiring immigrants and immigrant delivery workers to appear in court, we put them at risk to being in front of ICE agents and being subject to enforcement with ICE. And then further, a criminal record, which would be the potential result of a conviction from one of these criminal summonses, it could jeopardize an asylum claim or other legal immigrant paths that they may be already pursuing. I'll come back to you. Next slide, please. Important to also look at who's causing the bigger damage. We talked about how cyclists are subject to these harsher penalties, where they're getting this criminal summons versus drivers who are getting the Class B civil summons. Drivers are much more responsible for injury and death when it comes to crashes with pedestrians. Cyclists cause less than 1% of pedestrian deaths, and e-bikes cause about 0.4% of injuries for pedestrians. There's a very big difference between those two bar charts there. Next slide, please.
Okay, slide on. There we go.
Great. So there's been a fair amount of coverage of this recently, and NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch recently spoke in front of the city council about this new policy and was defending it. She made the assertion that it was necessary to issue these criminal summonses because she said that the B summonses do not work and they are meaningless for e-bike enforcement. I think what she was alluding to there was to say that that cyclists who receive these Class B summonses don't address those summonses. They don't respond to them. They don't pay the fines. But she came with no facts, no data to support that. That was just a claim that she made, but there was no statistics behind that to say what the effectiveness of and what the collection rate of those Class B summonses against cyclists are. Next slide, please. And so Manhattan Community Road 6 has previously made recommendations for how we can address safety related to e-mobility. We recognize that there are concerns with members of the community and that there are legitimate safety issues with the way that e-mobility, including e-bikes, are operated. And important to note, though, we're talking about all cyclists who are receiving these criminal summonses, not just e-bike riders. But nonetheless, we recently passed a resolution specifically in June 2023, where we were trying to make recommendations for how improvement can be done on safety for all road users as it relates to e-mobility. Specifically, our recommendations were roadway designs, improvements to control e-mobility vehicle speeds, educational campaigns to educate riders, better signage, safety signage, speed limits, safety courses for delivery workers, requiring the delivery apps to monitor their delivery drivers' or riders' speeds via GPS. And we also called for visual identification numbers and identification vests on the delivery workers. So we have made a number of recommendations. If you ask the question, well, what can or what should be done? This is what CB6 has previously taken the position that is what we think can and should be done to address speed and safety of bicyclists and delivery workers. Next slide, please. Okay, basically just to sum this up, the resolution calls for bike tickets to be mandated to be issued as civil summonses. I believe this is a fair and data-driven fix. It aligns the penalties appropriately with the risk. It frees up police and court resources. Police have to go in to speak at these hearings, so by not requiring them to be criminal summonses, or by them not being criminal summonses, the police will be available will not have to go into court to address them. Also, obviously, the court time in addressing these violations is freed up if they don't come there. This would protect immigrant delivery workers who serve our city's ever-growing appetite for food and other deliveries. And further, it would allow NYPD to address other pressing safety issues within our community. So with that, I present the resolution that I was distributed, which Brendan, if you could share that, please.
Okay, just a moment.
Thank you. So yes, resolution calling upon New York City Council to enact legislation to mandate that cyclist traffic violations be treated as non-criminal summonses. And if you could jump down all the way to the bottom, I'll just read out the therefores. Resolve that CB6 calls upon New York City Council to enact legislation mandating that cyclist traffic violations such as running red lights or failing to stop at stop signs be treated as non-criminal summonses, ensuring equitable treatment across all modes of transportation and protecting vulnerable populations from disproportionate legal consequences, and be it further resolved that Manhattan Community Board 6 opposes the NYPD policy of issuing criminal summonses for such infractions and calls upon the department to immediately discontinue the practice. I now open the floor up for questions from the committee, and then we'll go to the public. Okay, yes. go ahead.
You mentioned that in June 2023, CV6 had its own recommendations. Should that be in this resolution? Whereas in June 2023, CV6 made a comprehensive set of
Yes.
recommendations. Did I didn't hear
It is
yet?
not, but it should be.
Okay.
Let's do that as an amendment when we come back.
Okay, sure.
Thank you for bringing that up. Okay, let's bring up through the saw hands, you come up first and then.
Right, Pete Panuccio, I'd just like to say, what you just proposed is utter nonsense. Somebody brought up the horse and buggy days. I was a police officer from 1981 to 2020, 39 years. Been up and down with crime and how to enforce things and how we lower crime. If you want compliance, you have to go out and take action. In this particular case, civil court summonses are worthless. These people have no identification half the time. There's no registration, there's no insurance. It's a joke. They throw it in the garbage, they walk away. If you want them back in court, give them a criminal court summons. Furthermore, ICE is not standing around Manhattan Criminal Court waiting for people to come in and say, ooh, we got one. All right, not in civil court summonses. It's not happening. This is a bunch of nonsense.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's go to Chris. We'll come back in the week.
Yes. So yeah, I'm here again. So what I would say is that I think that I do believe in enforcement. People are driving their e-bikes crazy on the street and on the sidewalk. They need to focus on the people going the wrong way and driving the e-bike on the sidewalk and driving too fast. In any case, but I support it being a traffic ticket and not a criminal court summons. People should be able to pay online like everybody else. Trying to force, because that doesn't just force immigrant delivery workers into court, it forces everybody into court. And it's like a big, huge, unnecessary hassle. That's what I would say. But yeah, thanks.
Thanks very much. Good.
Hello, it's me again, Jack Nierenberg. I'm going to speak as a private citizen this time. First of all, Streets Blog is not a credible news source. It's heavily biased. I would not use it to cite anything. Second of all, the proposals that you put together, while they do address a lot of what needs to happen, they don't tell the whole story. They don't solve everything. And I know from my experience, I've nearly been hit so many times to the point where I feel like I'm in danger. And what I think needs to happen is, I'm not sure how much you've heard about Priscilla's Law. That will solve so many problems, because quite often the cops cannot enforce a lot of what they need to enforce, because the e-bikes, I'm not talking about the regular bikes, but the e-bikes, quite often they're speeding through, they hit people, they're on sidewalks, and a lot of these people, they leave. If you were to get into a hit and run incident and you leave the scene after an accident, if you're in a car or another vehicle, that's a criminal offense, and that needs to be addressed as well.
Thank you. We'll come back on the committee. I just want to get through the public comments. All right, let's go to John. You now have the floor.
Thank you. First of all, can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead. Hear you.
Jason, the rest of the committee, was a great meeting. Lots of attention to detail. I've actually really enjoyed it. I really heard about this resolution. I think it's a bad idea. Just speaking as someone who talks to a lot of people in the community, and what I notice, and this is not presented as, gospel in any way or biblical way, any other biblical way, that the people who are stopping now are the delivery people. And when I crossed First Avenue between 55th and 58th 4 times today, the people who nearly hit me were not delivery people. They were people riding city bikes or other bikes. And I have noticed a vast change in how safe it is to cross the street since this has been in. And I think that at the very least, you would need a lot more data to suggest that this be overturned. I think it's a common sense event that is very helpful at this point. And I stayed here this long because at full board, it really bothers me when people delay the meeting with questions on resolutions and didn't bother attending the committee. I'm here, and that's why I'm here. And also, I'm walking the walk on this. One of my kids got one of these summonses, and it was fine with me. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. All right, let's go to, okay.
All right, everyone. My name is Charlton D'Souza, president of Passengers United, and I do want to say this. This seems to be more like a Transall meeting than a community board meeting, but let it be. So now, why don't you pass a resolution that every bike rider and every child on an e-bike should have a helmet? How about that? Because that's what I see, and throughout New York City, especially on Third Avenue, you have a lot of accidents where bikers, whether it be regular people or delivery people, they don't follow the rules of the road. They run red lights, they hit seniors. What about that? Any comment on that? I would like you all to pass a resolution on that, and we do support Priscilla as well. That is important. Thank you. I notice none of you are looking at me while I'm talking, so that says a lot. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We're gonna move on to Theodore. Go ahead,
Oh, thank
please.
you very much. Okay, just quickly wanted to say, I mean, I'm not 100% for or against this, but I kind of see it as maybe a lesser evil compared to Priscilla's law. I think that requiring registration for all e-bikes would be kind of disastrous, and this, on the other hand, especially if you could get the NYPD to maybe enforce it in a common sense manner. I don't know, sometimes I bike at 3 a.m. There's literally nobody on the street. I don't know if they could maybe not enforce it then. But enforce it when it makes some sense to. I think that this could be reasonable.
You, good.
Yeah, so Mark, this Priscilla's law, like the registration of e-bikes, is that what that is?
Yes, it was a recent proposed bill in front of the city council to require registration of.
Doesn't even seem realistic. But, so I'm not in favor of any of that stuff. I think what you have here is actually makes a lot of sense. I will say, like, it is annoying to see people blowing through red lights, going on sidewalks, other traffic violations. I think what the NYPD that is doing though is complete overkill for this, because I mean, the punishment doesn't match the not even crime, traffic violation. And we don't see this kind of enforcement for cars, which, as we've seen from numbers from DOT and other places, the deaths from cars way outnumber the deaths from bicycles, injuries as well. So I agree with what you have here, because I feel like we do need to try to do something to make it safer. I think bike lanes are one of those things, but it's just what the NYPD is doing is bullshit. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'll bring it back to committee. Michael, you've been itching to speak.
Well, actually, I was wondering this question, so. Two things. Number one, it's like, if the cyclists have an ID and they get stopped for a cycling violation and they get the ticket, be summoned, they can still technically, I mean, this is correct. Like if they get found guilty of a violation, they can still acquire points technically.
Points.
Points on their state ID.
Not sure about that. Possibly, maybe, I don't know. So go ahead, sorry, continue.
No, the Traffic Violations Bureau, like.
PVP, that's moving violations if you're issued a V summons.
You're right, but if you're a cyclist, how would that apply? I don't know.
It's not gonna apply at all.
So what was the question? Or did you say that was the question? How would it apply?
I also, my question was, the restaurants, the places that offer cyclists, that have commercial cyclists, they're supposed to train them on sort of the rules of the road and give them like vests that have a number on it. And you're supposed to make sure that they ride responsibly and stuff like that, but what about like having a course to make sure that people learn how to ride e-bikes safely and responsibly and know how to ride them in the street in a safe and responsible manner? Because I think e-bikes, I do not think that there's no way that people can that e-bikes be safe, but I think people need to be trained on using them safely. And I think they're a little different from a regular bicycle, and I think that that's important to train people on using e-bikes and e-scooters safe and how to ride them in a safe manner.
Yeah, I can address a number of those. So in the resolution we passed in June 2023, two relevant things were asked for there to answer your question. We asked for general safety campaigns, educational campaigns on operation and safe usage of e-bikes. We also asked the delivery services to require training for their delivery cyclists about how to safely operate e-bikes. And then lastly, you correctly point out that there is an on the book city law that requires commercial cyclists who wear an identification number and the name of their employer, I believe it's specifically, or at least the restaurant they're delivering for, on their vest. That is technically the law, but it's extremely complicated now because the vast majority of delivery workers don't work for any particular restaurant. They mostly are independent contractors of oftentimes multiple different delivery services. And anyway, we did ask in the resolution from June 2023 for the city to close that loophole and find a way to require identification of who commercial cyclists are associated with and identification. I think we've previously addressed all of those concerns. And I agree with Barack's previous recommendation that we reference that resolution in order to reinforce it as a part of this one. Jerry.
Yeah, I don't know whether this came up in that discussion, but I've always thought part of it is we have perverse incentives. And that Uber and the other carriers that now deploy these contractors, they should be shouldering the financial blame. And
in general.
In general. And so, you know, they will, if these are levied, they will then change the fact that they're expecting somebody to make 8 deliveries an hour to 6. If there's, you know, a monetary loss associated with it. So maybe that's beyond the scope of tonight, but I've always thought that that's where it is. And if Jessica Tish is wondering about fine collection, there you go. It's a phone call away.
Thank you. Let's go to Pete.
So I'm really torn with this resolution. I'm torn because of the environment that we're living in now with ICE and immigration. And if you look at the number of summonses, and I was going to ask 2 questions, whether there's been a lot of publicity to this, but is there data as to how many have been issued? Is there discrimination on who they issue it to? Are people of color the targets of this? I think this is a much more complicated issue. And are there supporters in the city council against what the police are doing?
So there was some reporting, I'm gonna try to find it, on an increase in violations issued to cyclists. I don't think there's been any demographic data collected on that. In terms of who's receiving those summonses in terms of race, gender, age, etc. I don't know exactly. I didn't watch the city council hearings. My understanding is there was discussion on both sides and concerns from the city council about the way this is currently being enforced, but I don't think there was no outcome of those discussions that I'm.
So there's no data that's been made public yet. That's what you're really saying?
We're still in anecdote.
There was no data in terms of the demographics for who's received the violations, but I want to say, give me a moment and I'll find.
I've got one that's not a breakdown of ethnicity or anything, but it's cops writing 15% of their red light tickets to cyclists who are just 2% of road use.
7X.
I will find the data on the number of the increase in violations that were issued. I'll come back to address that question. Let's go, Donna.
Yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward that the quality of life and safety concerns of e-bikes are real, and that's I'm saying that as somebody who's e-biking home. I follow the laws and everyone whizzes by me, and I recognize that I'm not gonna gaslight people who are concerned. This is not just a foolhardy attempt, this criminal, it's dangerous at a moment of peak insecurity and extrajudicial actions that have been verified by Congress members witnessing them in the city. Sorry. I found it very dramatic then. Wow, ominous. So it could not be the more reckless time to do something that feels more performative and dangerous when there are real solutions that should be focused on for a thing that I don't want to pretend is not the case in the city.
I'm gonna circle back to answer B's question about if there's been an increase in enforcement. So according to Streets blog, in an article published on the 15th of May, I'm reading from the article, NYPD wrote 916 court summonses to e-bike riders since it launched its sweeps on April 28th. So that's less than a month. An astronomical increase from the mere 553 such violations cops wrote all of last year, NYPD said. That's about 65 criminal summonses a day, roughly a 43-fold increase of the rate of criminal court summonses issued of last year. All right, let me just stop reading. Yes, okay. Let's go to Maya and then I'll go to Gabe.
Thank you. I think Anna made a really good point, and there's also other implications. I think it's very unfair, and it's very clear about how they're being unequitable and that they're not applying this to cars or the people who are causing a lot more of the danger. And I agree with Anna that we shouldn't ignore the fact that there are people who are driving dangerously on e-bikes. But it also, I think there's a couple of things. The city is definitely having a problem with cyclists becoming an ingrained part of the street landscape, and like pedestrians and drivers and cyclists are all trying to navigate that together, which is a problem, and it's something that we have to continue working on. But it's also like the way that New York City people are using delivery, and it's like it's not something you can just ignore. And then by applying all these criminal summonses, you're hurting like a huge industry, and it's not equitable in what they're doing. And it was a very thinly veiled attempt, I think, to target specific population under the guise of this e-bike safety, which is not the right way for them to be addressing e-bike safety.
Thank you.
Yeah, just real quick, I agree with it's a very real problem, but very big. There are tangible solutions and mostly technological fixes that can lock the bikes when they're moving. I think, kind of piggybacking on what Maya said, we sort of grandfathered terrible driver behavior into our expectations as we walk the street. And reckless bikes really are like a 5, 6, 7-year-old phenomenon. It's more disorienting. But there's really no statutory basis to treat them differently legally, not that I've found. And we need to lean on companies like Seamless, DoorDash, and City Bike to physically lock the bikes if they're going the wrong way or if they're shooting to violate them, which is something that is technologically very very ill.
I don't know about locking the bikes, but locking
Or
their
preventing
use on the platform if they're violating the law.
You can actually lock bikes. You can speed fence. Like I took a bike once in Cleveland and I hit a certain neighborhood. I'm sorry, a speed limit and I hit a certain neighborhood and boom, dropped my speed from 15 to 5. Then totally based on the available tech. They can stop a bike from going the wrong way.
If they control the bike, but we can talk about that. Which they don't know.
They at least know when you do it, so they could at least do it monetarily. Anyway.
Right, yes. Okay. Any other comments?
It's interesting that there's a perception of e-bike danger, but the stats don't match it. And 0.4% of the pedestrian injuries were from e-bikes, so it doesn't quite jive with who's doing the injuries. Just kind of interesting, the difference between perception and and data, but, I'll just say that, if a cyclist rolls through a stop sign, they're not a criminal. They're just flat out not a criminal, should not be treated as a criminal, it's a traffic offense. So anyway, I would support this.
Michael, good.
I mean, honestly, I think like, I think the cyclists should have to follow the same rules as everyone else in terms of traffic rules, except for the leading pedestrian interval and stuff like that. Like, I think that if there's a stop sign, a cyclist should have to stop for it, but I think it should be treated as a civil violation and not a criminal court violation.
Thank you. Okay, does we have the resolution in front of you? Anybody seek to make a motion?
Did you put the amendment and the extra whereas on?
Sorry, I did write that up.
you
So,
did?
yeah, it's in the comments there.
Come on.
Yep.
Okay, we're at,
You could put that in last.
put that in the last whereas?
Yeah, let's go for it then.
You know, I want to make a comment. Like, a lot of the people who are breaking these rules don't even know that the rules exist. Just having moved here from DC 10 years ago, in DC, you can ride your bike on the sidewalk. So how are people to know that they can't do that here, especially when they're seeing so many other people joining? There's like an educational portion that's like really missing. So before we like give these criminal summonses and demand people show up in courthouses, they just don't know that they're even breaking the law. And that's a really big problem.
You make I think a very good point also, not just on the
Also not
side.
an excuse of the New York State penal law,
That's fine.
not an excuse.
But I think you make a very good point as, not just as it relates to the sidewalk, but just in general, I think if you observe common behavior, you'd see the same thing with yielding at stop signs or yielding at red lights. And I think you make a very good point that it very well may not be clear to anybody that they are or many of the people violating these, making these violations are aware that they're doing so in violation, which is something that we asked for in the previous resolution, was asking for better education to address that.
Yeah.
So,
And almost every person who's behind a car running a red light knows they're in the wrong.
And yet they don't receive a criminal summons.
That's it.
How
about that?
So, yes, thank you. Any comments on that? Adjust that amendment to reference the previous resolution. TV6 passed a resolution June 2023 with recommendations for measures to address safety associated with e-mobility. We could add, if we really wanted to, specifics of what those were, but we could just also link to it, which would probably be easier.
Yeah.
I'll make
Just
enough link to it. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
put in the link right now because I know it's 11 o'clock.
Yes.
Yeah. So can I raise a question that just came up?
Yes.
So I think an idea that just came up, and maybe we can merge some, about not knowing the laws or knowing the regulations and stuff, about talking about a non-criminal summons with a mandatory education course. You know, you have defensive driving for certain drivers of automobiles. Can we merge the two, that they have to really respond to the non-criminal and tie education to it?
Such a great idea.
My only opposition to that is that we don't require the same of drivers.
Well, you do require defensive driving if you did certain things.
But I don't think if you go through a red light, you would then be required to do some sort of education. I would support asking for both, I suppose, to have required safety.
Because I think we do have an issue of perception, looking at the statistics and stuff, something has to be done. So trying to educate and requiring it is, I think, an important thing. Just trying to deal with not responsive and not knowing the rules.
I'm supportive in general. Any other thoughts on that?
Is there a particular
Yeah.
place where a clause would be added and also language for the clause?
Can we go to Larry and then I'm gonna come back to you, B, to consider where and how to put that on here?
Why not just, and what we did previously also included the and educational initiatives.
Yeah.
Well, I think what B specifically saying is that we should ask for education to become a part of, as a part of addressing this concern that we're newly asking for required education. As a part of receiving. Yeah,
While you're taking questions, Jason, I think I know which direction B is going.
okay. I'm gonna let Brendan do that and then we're
I
gonna go to
would
Larry.
only add to that my recommendation would be third party. Not the app, not the city, but a third party to adjudicate what the training and their certification would be like.
Let's look at how the wording comes out and we can see how that fits in there. Larry, go ahead.
Okay, I also support what Jason is currently getting at. And I'd also like to mention a somewhat analogous situation, which is a big problem for the transit authority, and that is for people who board buses without paying. And oftentimes it is a matter of opportunity versus risk. And that could be one of the things that's going on here. And what you observed earlier in the discussion concerning the delivery bike riders who are now observing the laws more carefully is because of a genuine concern about sanction, and they've educated themselves, and it's all a question of knowing when that knowledge is important and where people will apply it without sanction. And that's what we're hoping to get to.
Thanks, Larry. B, so Brendan's got some verbiage there. Is that along the lines of what you were thinking?
B or unmuted.
I can't read it because part of it's blocked by the video, so can you just read that?
Yeah, I got it. Be resolved that Manhattan Community Board 6 believes that cyclist education would more effectively address e-bike violations than issuing criminal summonses.
Well, I really wanted it to be tied to non-criminal summonses. So when they do a non-criminal, that they do education.
Yeah, I got you.
I agree.
So it's something like, and should be required as a part of.
Non-criminal summonses.
So yeah, Brendan, so and should be required.
It should be required.
As a part of adjudicating?
Of adjudicating non-criminal summonses. Thank you.
I would just ask that we remove e-bike, just bike.
Yeah, because it's all bikes, not just e-bikes.
Yep.
Right.
Is anybody opposed to this amendment?
No.
Can we say
All right.
cyclist violations? Because that's what we were calling it in the other
Hmm.
results.
Thank you, yes. Okay. Any other feedback on the resolution? And if not, does anyone feel moved?
I'm so moved.
Sorry. Moving to adopt the resolution.
Move to question. Sorry.
Can I just ask if the previous resolved using the word infractions was intended to mean the same as violations? And if that was the case, maybe we should make it consistent and change infractions to violations there too.
Yes.
Wait, where is this?
So you want to change, sorry, keep violations or keep infractions?
I think you have to keep violations.
Violations.
Got it.
And
Okay.
so let me move the resolution for adoption.
We have a second. Okay, great. Jerry seconds. All right, we're gonna move to vote, please.
Okay, committee members, when I call your name, please say whether you are in favor, opposed, abstain, or not entitled. Michael Cohen,
In favor.
B. Disman,
In favor.
Maya Donahue,
In favor.
Rock Friedman,
In favor.
Jason Fromowitz.
In favor.
Anna
In
Picior,
favor?
Marion Rowe,
In favor.
Larry Shire,
In favor.
Abe Turzo,
In favor.
and Jerry Weinstein.
In favor.
All 10 committee members in favor, this resolution passes committee.
All right, great. Now we're moving on to the chair's report, which is waived. Next, we will look at older new business. Does anybody have any older new business that they would like to raise? Seeing none, the meeting is adjourned at 11:08 PM. Thank you, everyone, for a marathon of.
Sugar crafts.
Yeah.
Bye.